Good evening, champions. Let me start with a question. How many of you have ever set a big goal, something that made your heart race, only to watch it slowly fade away like smoke in the wind? Be honest. Hands up. Yeah, I see those hands. And if we're being real, we've all been there. We start January screaming, "This is my year." But by February, we're whispering, "Maybe next year." Why does that happen? Why do most goals fail? I'll tell you why. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because they set goals like people who wish, not like people who are committed. There's a difference. A wish says, "I hope." A commitment says, "I will." Let me paint a picture. There's a man standing at the bottom of a mountain, dreaming about the view from the top. He buys new shoes, a shiny backpack, and the best gear. He takes pictures of himself pointing toward the peak, but he never takes the first step. Meanwhile, another climber with worn out shoes and no fanfare just starts walking, step after step, slow, uncomfortable, tired, but consistent. Guess who makes it to the top? It's not the dreamer. It's the doer. Most goals fail because they're dressed up in excitement, but starved of discipline. You can't build a skyscraper on emotional moments. You build it on daily bricks of consistent action, laid even when you don't feel like it. Listen to me. Your feelings will lie to you. Your discipline will free you. Now let's talk about what to do instead. 1. Trade motivation for identity. Motivation is like a sugar rush. It gives you energy, but it won't last. You don't need a sugar rush. You need an identity shift. If you want to lose weight, stop saying, "I'm trying to get fit." Start saying, "I am an athlete in training." If you want to build a business, stop saying, "I hope I succeed." Say, "I am an entrepreneur building my empire." See the difference. Goals are about outcomes. Identity is about who you are. And when who you are changes, what you do follows. Because you will fight for your identity harder than you'll fight for a goal. 2. Shrink the goal. Grow the consistency. Another reason goals fail. They're too big for today, so we get overwhelmed and quit. We want to write a book, so we wait for the perfect weekend. We want to run a marathon, so we push too hard on day one and get injured. Stop trying to leap a mountain in a single bound. Break it down, bite-sized, measurable, daily. Don't say, "I'll write 300 pages. Say, "I'll write 1 page every day." Don't say, "I'll lose 50 pounds. Say, "I'll walk 15 minutes today." Do something so small it's impossible to fail. Then do it daily, because small wins stack into unstoppable momentum. Remember, big doors swing on small hinges. 3. Build an environment that forces growth. Let me tell you a secret. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. Want to eat healthier? Stop stocking junk food in your house. Want to save money? Automate the savings before you ever see the cash. Want to be inspired? Surround yourself with people who are already on fire. Because if you hang around 5 broke people, you'll be the 6th. If you hang around 5 winners, you'll become number 6. Environment beats willpower every single time. 4. Embrace the boring middle. People love starting. People love finishing. Nobody loves the middle. That's where most goals die. In the long, quiet middle, where it's not exciting anymore and no one's clapping for you. But the middle is where the magic happens. Champions aren't made on stage. They're made in the dark when nobody's watching. Doing the work nobody celebrates. The middle tests you, molds you, and prepares you for the moment the world will see you. So if you're in the middle, don't quit. That's not failure. That's forging. 5. Focus on becoming, not arriving. The final reason goals fail is because we treat them like finish lines instead of stepping stones. We say, "When I reach this weight, this income, this milestone, then I'll be happy." And when we get there, we feel empty because we weren't chasing growth. We were chasing a moment. Success is not a place you arrive. It's a person you become. Don't just set a goal to achieve something. Set a goal to become someone. Because once you become the person who does the work, hitting the target becomes automatic. So let's bring this home. Most goals fail not because people are weak, but because they aim with hope instead of commitment. They chase motivation instead of identity. They go too big instead of going consistent. They rely on willpower instead of building a winning environment. They flee the middle instead of fighting through. And they chase arrival instead of chase arrival instead of transformation. But you are not most people. You are powerful. You are resilient. You are built for the climb. So from this moment on, don't just set goals, forge identities. Don't just dream, do. Don't just wish, work. Because the world doesn't need another abandoned dream. The world needs your dream, fulfilled, alive, and blazing like fire. Stand up, step forward, commit. And one day, people will look at you and say, they didn't just set a goal. They became unstoppable. Most people believe they need more motivation to reach their goals. But motivation is like fireworks, loud, bright, and gone in seconds. It feels powerful in the moment, but it fades the moment life throws resistance your way. That's why people start strong and finish nowhere. They rely on a spark when what they need is a fire that never goes out. And that fire comes from identity. When you see something as what you do, it's optional. When you see it as who you are, it becomes inevitable. If someone offers you a cigarette and you say, I'm trying to quit, you leave the door open. But if you say, I'm not a smoker, the conversation ends because your identity has already made the decision. That shift is what separates people who dabble from people who dominate. When you build your identity around the outcome you want, your behavior naturally aligns with it. Instead of trying to summon motivation every morning, you wake up already standing on the foundation of who you have decided to be. Think of an athlete in training. They don't ask themselves if they feel like running today. They run because it's who they are. That's the difference between effort and embodiment. Motivation pushes you. Identity pulls you. Motivation is a battle with your emotions. Identity is the declaration of your character. And when you anchor your habits in character, you stop negotiating with yourself every day. The reason so many goals collapse is because people chase results without rewriting the story they tell themselves. They try to reach new heights while dragging the old version of themselves up the mountain. But the old version doesn't belong at the summit. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, someone who always quits, or someone who just isn't that type, you will sabotage your efforts no matter how disciplined you try to be. You'll find reasons to stop because it feels uncomfortable to operate out of alignment with the person you believe you are. The mind always seeks harmony between identity and behavior. So if your behavior reaches for greatness, but your identity whispers, this isn't you, you will eventually retreat to the comfort of what you know. The breakthrough begins when you stop chasing results and start becoming the kind of person who produces them by nature. You can't fake this. It's not about affirmations or slogans. It's about evidence. Every small action you take becomes a vote for the kind of person you want to be. One healthy meal is a vote. One workout is a vote. 1 hour of focused work is a vote. Individually, they seem small. Collectively, they rewrite your identity. And once your identity shifts, you don't have to push anymore. The pull becomes automatic. That's why you don't need to wait for motivation to show up. Motivation is a guest. Identity is a resident. The more you embody the role, the more consistent your actions become. And consistency will beat occasional bursts of motivation every single time. Decide who you need to become to live the life you desire. Write it down. Visualize it. Speak it until it feels real, and then prove it with daily actions. Every time you cast a vote for that identity, the old you fades a little more. And when the old you is gone, the things that once felt impossible will become things you simply do, because they will be part of who you are. Most people fail to reach their goals, not because they lack ambition, but because they overwhelm themselves with the size of the mountain instead of focusing on the next step. They set goals so massive and distant that the gap between where they are and where they want to be feels impossible to cross. In the beginning, that big vision feels exciting. It creates a rush of energy, a spark that makes you believe change is inevitable. But that spark burns out fast when reality sets in. The gap feels heavier than the hope felt in the first moment. What once looked inspiring now feels intimidating, and fear of failure starts whispering in the background. So people stall, they procrastinate. They tell themselves they'll start when they have more time, more money, more clarity. But the truth is, the size of the goal paralyzes them before they even begin. The secret is to make the goal so small it becomes impossible to fail. If you want to run a marathon, don't start with 20 miles. Start with putting on your running shoes and walking around the block. If you want to write a book, don't set out to write 300 pages. Start with one paragraph. If you want to get fit, don't demand 2 hours at the gym 5 days a week. Start with 10 push-ups in your living room. Shrinking the goal doesn't mean shrinking your dream. It means creating an entry point so frictionless that your brain has no reason to resist. Because once you start, momentum takes over. Action, no matter how small, creates energy, and energy fuels more action. That's how tiny wins become unstoppable momentum. Consistency matters more than intensity at the beginning. A small daily habit practiced consistently will carry you further than a massive burst of effort followed by burnout. When you go too big too soon, you exhaust your willpower and reinforce the story that you can't sustain it. When you go small and consistent, you build confidence, and confidence fuels commitment. It's like laying bricks. One brick doesn't look like much, but day after day, brick by brick, you build a wall. The wall doesn't appear from one heroic day of labor. It appears from showing up every day, even when it's boring, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. That's how lasting success is built. Breaking big goals into smaller, measurable steps also gives you constant milestones to celebrate. Celebration is fuel. When you see progress, you believe progress is possible, and belief multiplies effort. Most people give up because they see no signs of progress early on. They think they're failing when in reality, they just set the bar too far away. They ignore the micro wins that would have proven to them that they're moving forward. But when you celebrate each small step, you feed your belief system and turn discipline into something emotionally rewarding. That positive feedback loop locks in the behavior until it becomes part of your identity. Small steps also make it easier to adapt. Big rigid plans collapse the moment life interrupts them. Small steps are flexible. If you miss one, you can get back on track the next day without guilt. That resilience is crucial because the path to any goal is never a straight line. Life will test you. You will get tired. You will face distractions and doubt. But if your commitment is anchored to tiny daily actions instead of massive leaps, you can bend without breaking. Over time, those small actions compound, and the compounding effect turns something once intimidating into something inevitable. Most people assume success is a matter of willpower, but willpower is like a phone battery. It drains fast, especially when it's constantly under pressure. When you rely only on discipline to push through temptation, fatigue, and distractions, you eventually burn out. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. Your surroundings shape your behavior more powerfully than your intentions do. If your environment makes the wrong choice easy and the right choice hard, no amount of motivation will save you. But if you design an environment that makes the right choice automatic, you won't have to fight yourself every day to follow through. You stop trying to force growth and start living inside it. Every habit lives or dies by the conditions that surround it. If you want to eat better, but your kitchen is filled with junk food, you are choosing a battlefield where temptation wins. If you want to focus deeply, but your phone is buzzing every few seconds, your attention is being auctioned away. If you want to save money, but your spending apps send you constant sale alerts, you are inviting sabotage. The easiest way to change behavior is to change what surrounds you. Remove the friction from the actions you want to take and add friction to the ones you want to avoid. Put healthy food within arm's reach and hide the snacks. Silence notifications and move your phone out of sight when you work. Unsubscribe from marketing emails and set up automatic transfers to your savings account. Structure removes struggle. The less energy it takes to do the right thing, the more often you'll do it. Environment is not just physical, it's social. The people you spend the most time around shape your standards without you even noticing. If you're surrounded by people who settle, you'll start to believe settling is normal. If you're surrounded by people who push, grow, and demand excellence, you will feel pulled to rise with them. Energy is contagious. If 5 of your closest friends are disciplined, hungry, and driven, you will become the 6th. If 5 of your closest friends are complacent, negative, and stagnant, you will become the 6th. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to be intentional about who gets the most access to your mind. Protect your mental space as fiercely as you would protect your home. Only allow voices that challenge you to level up, not voices that comfort you into staying the same. You can also build environmental triggers that act as anchors for the behaviors you want to ingrain. Place your workout clothes where you can see them the moment you wake up. Keep your journal on your pillow so you can't go to bed without noticing it. Create a dedicated space for focused work so your mind associates that space only with deep concentration. These physical cues prime your mind for the behavior you want, and over time the habit becomes automatic because the environment keeps calling you back into action. What begins as effort transforms into default behavior simply because the environment makes it easier to follow through than to skip it. Your surroundings quietly sculpt your behavior every day. So if you want to change your life, start by changing what's around you. Everyone loves the thrill of starting something new. The excitement is intoxicating. The vision is clear. And the belief that this time will be different burns bright. People also love the glory of finishing, the celebration at the top, the applause, the validation. But in between those two peaks lies the long, flat stretch where progress is slow, praise is silent, and the excitement fades. The boring middle. This is where most goals go to die. It's not because people aren't capable. It's because they mistake boredom for failure. They think the absence of fireworks means they're on the wrong path, when in reality it means they're exactly where the transformation happens. The middle is where dreams quietly harden into discipline, where character is forged in repetition, and where the ordinary grind turns into extraordinary results over time. The middle demands something most people aren't prepared to give: consistency without applause. It's easy to be motivated when everything is new and inspiring. It's easy to push through when the finish line is in sight. But the middle gives you no confirmation. You wake up, do the work, and see little change. You look in the mirror and nothing seems different. You build, but the world doesn't notice. That's when doubt creeps in and whispers that maybe it's not working, Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you should quit. The people who succeed aren't the ones who avoid those thoughts. They are the ones who outlast them. They show up again and again, even when the work feels invisible, because they understand that progress is silent long before it becomes obvious. Repetition is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Every great athlete, artist, or entrepreneur has lived through the dull middle stretch where their routine felt mechanical and the results seemed stagnant. What kept them moving was not adrenaline, it was commitment. They didn't require each day to feel exciting. They only required themselves to show up. That quiet discipline creates a compounding effect. What feels like nothing happening on the surface is actually roots growing underground. The hours spent in obscurity become the foundation that supports the moment of recognition later. The world eventually sees the tree, but the roots were grown in the boring middle where no one was looking. The middle also tests your emotional endurance. It forces you to let go of instant gratification and develop patience. It asks you to trust a process you can't yet see the end of. This is where most people break because they confuse discomfort with danger. They think feeling tired means they're failing. They think feeling uninspired means they've lost their passion. But passion isn't proven at the start when everything is exciting. Passion is proven in the middle when nothing is exciting and you keep going anyway. That's where resilience is born. The middle reshapes your relationship with effort. It teaches you to detach your actions from your emotions, to do what is necessary rather than what is appealing. And that mindset becomes the engine that carries you to the finish line. When you understand the nature of the middle, it stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like progress in disguise. The boredom is not a signal to quit. It's proof that you've moved past the easy part and are now doing the work that most people avoid. Every lap, every rep, every session done when no one is clapping builds a kind of strength that can't be faked. It carves endurance into your spirit. It shapes the version of you that is capable of holding the success you're chasing. The beginning is where you get attention. The end is where you get applause. But the middle is where you become the person who deserves both. Most people set goals as if they are destinations, fixed points on a map where happiness, fulfillment, and peace are waiting like trophies to be claimed. They tell themselves that when they reach a certain weight, earn a certain income, buy a certain house, or achieve a certain title, everything will finally feel complete. But when they reach that point, they often feel an unexpected emptiness because they were chasing arrival instead of transformation. The finish line gives a moment of celebration, but the moment fades and life goes on. If your identity and purpose are wrapped around an external achievement, you're left wondering who you are once you get it. True growth doesn't come from reaching something. It comes from becoming someone. That's why people who focus on becoming stronger, wiser, more disciplined, and more courageous never really stop growing because their identity is anchored to the process, not the prize. When you pursue becoming, the way you see challenges changes. Obstacles stop feeling like detours and start feeling like training. Instead of asking, how fast can I get there? You start asking, what kind of person must I become to get there and stay there? That shift transforms the journey from something you rush through into something you absorb. Every struggle becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes preparation. Every failure becomes a teacher. People who chase arrival see setbacks as proof they're not good enough. People who pursue becoming see setbacks as part of their evolution. They understand that the real win isn't crossing a finish line. It's building the character that can cross any finish line again and again. Focusing on becoming also frees you from the pressure of perfection. When you treat success as a destination, every mistake feels like it ruins the trip. You carry shame, guilt, and fear because you think you're falling behind. But when your goal is growth, mistakes become raw material. They stop being evidence of failure and start being fuel for development. This mindset makes you more resilient because you no longer see failure as final. You see it as feedback. Instead of quitting when things get hard, you adapt, refine, and rise. Over time, that approach makes you unstoppable because you stop tying your worth to what happens on any single day. Your worth becomes tied to your commitment to keep evolving. Becoming also creates sustainability. Arrival is temporary. Becoming is permanent. When people chase an outcome, they often revert back to old habits once they reach it because their identity hasn't changed. They treated the goal like an event instead of a lifestyle. They pushed hard until the moment of achievement and then relaxed and all the progress unraveled. But when you focus on becoming, you are never done. The habits stick because they are rooted in who you are, not just what you wanted. The achievement becomes a natural side effect of your identity, not something you have to keep straining to maintain. You stop needing motivation to hold on to success because you've become the kind of person who lives it by default. The pursuit of becoming shifts your definition of success from something external to something internal. It no longer depends on applause, recognition, or comparison. It becomes a private standard you hold for yourself. This makes your growth unshakable because it's not built on things outside your control. The world can doubt you, ignore you, or misunderstand you, and it won't shake your drive because your pursuit isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about honoring the person you are becoming. This internal anchor gives you stability when circumstances change, when plans fall apart, when results come slower than expected. It keeps you moving forward when external rewards are delayed. And that consistency is what eventually produces the external rewards anyway.